Hi, Paul Johnson for Film Obsessive. Today I am here with two folks from a recent film thriller called The Low End Theory. They are Sofia Yepes. She plays the character Raquel. She is also a co-writer, not to mention the film's lead actress and a producer on the project. And along with her is Francisco Ordoñez. Francisco is director and co-writer of the film. I'd like to welcome you both to Film Obsessive.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes.
Well, it's so great to have you. And I understand that just 10 days ago, your film premiered at the New York Latino Film Festival. Were you both there with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Sure. Cisco, do you want to tell about the full circle moment?
Yeah. So the New York Latino Film Festival is the first film festival where I presented my work many moons ago. Um, when I presented my thesis film there at a film school. And Sophie was in that film. So was Renee Rosado, who also stars in The Low End Theory, the film we're going to talk about. And it was just really nice to come back after all those years with our first film. And actually, the it was also really nice that the festival director, Calixto Chinchilla, came. He came to the end of the Q&A, and he said some really nice words about our resilience, and having come back after all these years and made our first film. And it was just really nice to hear that from him. In addition to all the other great things that happened at the festival, and just obviously just presenting the film to the world for the first time and all that.
And Sophia, you played an important role, I know, in the conception of the project and imagining the story. What was it like for you to get to see it unfold on a big screen in front of an audience like that?
Um, it was, I don't know, it was like a very surreal moment for me because the thing about the New York Film Festival, it's like we had that full circle moment, but we also were surrounded by the people we were raised by, our families, our friends who believed in us when we were, little kids saying we're gonna do this thing. And so to be able to share that with them was a profound, profound moment for me. And yeah, it was like, a little dream come true for me.
That's really exciting. So let's, for our audience's sake, let's hear just a little bit about what the film is and what it does in terms of your character specifically and her, well, ordeal, shall we put it, for lack of a better word, or conflict that she goes through.
Sure.
Yeah, so the film is I know a lot of people call it a thriller, and we do as well. But what it really is at its core is a film noir, and I guess a neo noir because it's not from the classic period. And so and we say that because really the uh the mandate for us creatively was to take the classic tropes of the genre, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean the classic elements, right, of the genre, and to rework them in a 2024 setting, in a Latino context, in an LGBT context. And so, whereas the noir hero classically, and film noir was a genre that came out of World War II, and the film noir hero was always a male, often somebody scarred by World War II, and then of course gets themselves involved in some morally questionable situations, right? Often revolving on femme fatale, stolen money, etc., right? And so we wanted to take that and put the character that Sophia plays in the midst of that, and have her go through a film noir, neo noir war journey. And that's the idea. And specifically, and so yeah, and so the story, the Low End Theory, tells a story of Sophia's character Raquel, who, when the film begins, she's found herself in a rut working for this drug dealer. She basically launders money for him. She's in a loveless relationship with his sister, and she really dreams of becoming a hip hop producer. And so she's like out at these sort of fly by night kind of like music companies, and one day she meets this beautiful femme fatale. Her name is Veronica, and would-be singer, and they fall in love, and she starts cheating on her live-in girlfriend with Veronica. And one day Veronica shows up beat up, and it turns out that Veronica owes a lot of money to these very dangerous people. And then Raquel, being that she handles her boss's money, she comes up with a way to pay back the debts of this woman, now the femme fatale, this woman that she's fallen in love with. And of course, the screws get turned and hilarity ensues from there.
The screws get turned and things ensue. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I was thinking in a lot of in terms of a lot of hilarity there. It's a pretty
Yeah, a
serious
little
film.
twisted.
And what your character Raquel goes through, Sophia, does seem like she really is between a rock and a hard place here.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a neo-noir, and the concepts are big. Um, but if you break it down to human feelings and things like that, like I think it's super relatable. You fall in love and you really want to take care of somebody. She has trauma that she's trying to overcome, and that plays a huge role in her life. And so there's always like that feeling of how can I how can I vindicate myself? How can I like be better after this thing? And she sees that opportunity in helping Veronica, and someone she loves. I can help her. And I think that so many times we have those moments in our lives. I think that was part of the reason why we had an opportunity, Francisco and I, to make a film like this, because we've both experienced something like this before. um and aside from that, then there's the moral dilemmas where you think you're doing something good, and you truly believe that it's the right thing to do, but it's possible that you're hurting somebody else in the end. And you know we all go through that too.
I mean, what I've always loved about film noirs is that it's like the first early cinematic genre where that really explored anti-heroes, flawed people, right? And to me, we're all flawed. And that's the universality of it, right? Like even the dilemma that which in a lot of ways is by her own making, it's something that's universal because we've all done versions of that, smaller things, right? And that's, to me, that's the universal aspect of it. And that's the way in which antiheroes and the genre really digs into the human condition for me. And that's what made it really interesting for me.
I really like the way you put that, and it's obviously it's very much a favorite style or mode of filmmaking of mine as well. Thinking back to the classic era, are there films that you reference, maybe have in the back of your mind as you're making the low end theory? Anything in particular?
Definitely Double Indemnity,
Wow.
to the extent that our film in a lot of ways is, I always call it there's the noir sin. There's that one big sin that the character commits, in Double Indemnity. It's offing his his uh his lover's husband in order to keep
Hmm.
her money, right? And that happens. And the film is kind of, and that film is kind of bifurcated in the middle by that act. We definitely had that. If you look at it, there's that happening. There's the beginning, there's the build up to that, and then there's ramifications of this thing, this sin that our character commits at the middle. And I think also the noirs that I like, because there's the private eye noirs, right?
Yeah.
But there's the ones that are more about tragic love, right? And wrapped around a sin. And I think that those are the ones that I'm more interested in. Another one that I love is, maybe people don't really see it as a film noir, but if you're familiar with A Place in the Sun,
Yeah, absolutely.
we're kind of I was always thinking of that. And another one is which if you know the film, you could probably see our third act in it. It's Scarlet Street, and
Oh,
which is a remake of La Chienne, the
yep.
Renoir, right? And Scarlet Street was the Hollywood remake by Fritz Lang,
Yep.
right? And
I thought
so
for a second you were going to mention In a Lonely Place in there as well when you were
yeah,
talking about the high price of love there at the end, and
absolutely.
then the human foible and frailty that really motivates it.
Yeah, for
True.
sure. For sure. Absolutely. And I think the other thing about film noir, anybody who knows me and my work and what I always talk about is I'm really drawn to spiritual themes. Not so much about making necessarily a religious movie, as opposed to making a movie that explores religion or religion as a phenomenon or as a psychological phenomenon. Obviously, Raquel has this sort of fixation on karma, or she's created this whole theory around karma that she lives by. And to me, a lot of the classic noirs, and it's not just to me. I mean, it's a thing. It's people understand that there is this sort of undercurrent of fatalism, mysticism, right? And that's something that's always been really interesting to us. And we wanted to take that undercurrent and kind of bring it to the surface. And we did it in this context of this sort of layperson's version of karma. She's not a Buddhist, like it isn't this like real,
Right.
right? But she has this sort of like everyday kind of like, it comes around, goes around, good or bad kind of thing. And that was our way to kind of take that sort of noir mysticism and take it from underneath, from the subtext, and bring it to the text.
I'm going to come back to some specifics of the noir style or idiom in just a second, but I also wanted to ask too about the importance of representation, especially of Latinx and LGBTQ plus people on screen. And it's something that strikes me as relatively rare, obviously nearly completely silent in classic noir, but also scarcely visible, really, even in most modern neo-noir, except at the periphery or the margins of these narratives. And I just wanted to ask, specifically what you're trying to bring to the genre in casting and creating the film in the way that you have.
So if you want to say a little bit, I've spoken a lot.
Well, yeah. I think well, I think one of the biggest factors, obviously, being a female, uh, and wanting to be the star and creating this film to tell the story, that was already a big jump from the classics and, even some of the majority of the neo-noirs, right? And putting it in the LGBTQ community and casting a majority of Latino actors, to us, it wasn't that we had to do it in order to create this film. It was just they happened to be, right? And so we happen to know a lot of phenomenal actors and they were friends, and so what better opportunity to make a movie than doing it with your friends and being able to do this together and knowing that they can deliver, right? So that, I think, brought a different look to some of these characters that we typically see not in the Latino context. And it's important because, you know character and character development, it's brought on by the individual person. They bring in elements of themselves, and I think that it's important to see all these full, well-rounded characters from different environments. We just happen to have a lot of Latinos in our community. And then as far as the LGBTQ, well, one, I think the theme of the film noir having the femme fatale, it was kind of like we had to have that, but it was also, for me in particular, a journey of that experience for me, a journey of the coming out, a journey of like, okay, like we're going to tell this story in this way, and how can we do it in the most realistic, most uh organic, real,
Yeah.
connected way. And for me, it was telling the story of that, of being that, but it didn't have to be about being queer. It just happened to be. And I think that was really important for us to just tell a really good story where these elements just existed without it having to be a thing. Does that make sense?
It does absolutely. And congratulations to you. And really, thanks to you for doing that. I mean, a film narrative really not need depends so much on those elements as to make them the pivotal plot points or the big surprise moments, on which the plot has to turn. And I don't think that this genre or style in particular really has the best track record of representing queer people in particular on screen. There's been some really thorny examples in the past. But you know, it's great to see films where people can simply be non-normative, if that's the word to use here, and exist in the plot without the plot having to depend entirely on, you know, some big revelation of a secret or something like that.
Totally, yeah. Also growing up, I wanted to be in those kinds of films. I wanted to I never saw myself in one of those, but I was like, man, that's a cool story, I want to do something like that. And so we said, well, let's just make it.
It
I
is a
think
cool
also,
story. Yeah, go ahead, Francisco.
yeah, I was going to say is also, I mean, the flip side of that is that sometimes you'll hear from within our community, you've made another movie where Latinos are criminals and such, and I think that what I say to that is that it's kind of limiting, because in the same way that Sophie's saying she watched Double Indemnity or something and was like, I wow, imagine me playing something like that and
Or
going
Chinatown.
through that dark journey, right? That dark journey really requires a really great actor.
Yeah.
That dark, to really, I mean, what Sophie had to put herself through. I mean, you've seen the movie. Once anybody who's seen the movie, just imagine being in that state of mind for the entire time that we shot the film. She had to do that. She had to deliver it. She's in every scene. It was designed that way. There's only one moment when you see the movie where she's not physically in the scene, but she's kind of like there. She's privy to what's going on. But the movie's designed for that actor to carry that role and to go through this incredibly morally ambiguous and strenuous journey. And I think that, it shouldn't only be, we shouldn't limit ourselves to movies that don't do that, right? Some of the greatest movies, as we all know, are noirs. Some of the greatest movies that have ever been made have been about people who live on the wrong side of the law. The Godfather, those movies, a lot of those movies in the 70s birthed these amazing careers for Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and many more. And I think we also deserve to explore the dark side of humanity and to do our best at doing it. And yeah, we deserve to do that too. And that's what I say to that other conversation that happens as well sometimes in our communities.
Right. And there are reasons, there are important cultural and societal reasons why those films became popular at the moments that they were. And it was in part because they were good, but it was also not only because they were good, but because I think also in the wake of, in the examples you gave, in the wake of the scandals and trauma of Watergate and Vietnam, that people did not have a particularly black and white notion of the institutions that governed them. And the same was true, I think, in the wake of World War II in particular, that, people were really struggling of the fallout of the very real, palpable, possible end of humanity and what that meant for them. And also, I'm just going to say, in a genre like this, you get opportunities for some really cool action sequences, and props to you for really delivering on some really excellent gunplay, in particular at one point in the film. I mean, I know that's not necessarily easy to direct, but it can be exciting to direct. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the production on set, where and when you shot the film, and what kind of things you were doing there.
Yeah, I mean, we had to the extent that anybody likes the special for the shootout, the gunplay stuff, we had an amazing team.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate to have them. I had done stunts before, nothing as elaborate as this. When people see the movie, the big sort of gunplay scene, we shot that over 2 days with two camera bodies going. It was kind of crazy because we couldn't control the light, and I was really worried about it being able to be cut together where you're not like somebody's blasted with sunlight and it cuts and then they're in like under a cloud. But we also had an amazing colorist as well, and that all came together really. I mean, you don't think about that for like a scene like that in a low budget in an independent film where it's about the colorist, but it's about being able to shoot all this action, all this material that you need to shoot very quickly without controlling the light. So that's when the colorist also comes in so that we can actually use all the takes that we want to use. But we had a great team. It took a lot of planning. We did a pre-visualization, a good amount of it, meaning that we went to the locations with like broomsticks and like and like some plastic guns, and we the our stunt coordinator Gabe, him and his team came in, and we basically shot the whole thing on an iPhone. We tweaked and we got it all right so that when we came to set, we had done all that practice, and so we can shoot it fairly quickly. Yeah, I mean, I guess another interesting thing is that I wanted to do everything practically, meaning the blood gags. I wanted to do them practically, and we tried. And I learned that when you don't have a lot of time, go for the VFX. But I hadn't had a lot of experience with VFX blood, and I was like, is it possible? It's amazing what you can do with VFX blood.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
just
incredible.
say that. It's astounding what you
And
can
we
do.
had a great VFX artist.
Great,
She's
an
amazing.
amazing VFX artist. And yeah, so it's my first feature, that much gunplay, and it was a learning experience, but I was lucky to have a great team.
Well, it looks like a great team. It looks like a great sequence. I just want to ask what's next for the film, and then subsequently, what's next for each of the two of you?
Well,
Next for
we
the
are, go ahead.
Next for the film, we're at the Envision Latino Music and Film Festival happening in Palm Springs, October 10th through the 12th. We screen on the 10th, October 10th. And then November 2nd, we're screening at the Guadalajara, LA Film Festival. So Guadalajara International Film Festival has an LA branch, and they pick some films and they screen them in Los Angeles. And we're going to be screening at a brand new theater that's, I think, has only been open since August, in Norwalk, sorry. And we're just excited because we know it's going to look great and sound great, and it's a brand new theater. And props to Moctezuma Esparza for opening up that theater in Norwalk. Yeah, what else? What am I missing, Sophie?
What's next for you?
Next for me, I have a project that I've been working on for a very long time. It's now called St. Paul. It's based on experiences that I had when I was an undergrad, a sociology student, and I had done a paper on this religious movement in New York called the Black Israelites, which are basically made up of the Black and Latino guys who believe they preach that they're the true Jews of the Bible, that the world is about to end. They believe in a lot of conspiracy theory. And I did a paper when I was an undergrad and as a sociology student, and it really affected me. I mean, these are people they're at the extremes of politics, religion, all of it, right? And so I wrote a script about a college student that does what I didn't do. He infiltrates them. He sees that he's not going to get anywhere being honest with them, so he actually starts telling them, I actually want to join." And he gets himself in a bunch of trouble. And it's just it's a film for me about, it's really close to my heart, and it's a film about it's about belief, it's about extremism, and yeah.
I'm interested. I want to see it right now.
Um,
Great script.
awesome. Yeah, so that, working on that, and one of the two production companies the In Association production company, it's Shakti Soul, which when you watch the movie, you'll see it's one of the splash screens at the beginning of the movie. That's my company with Renee Rosado and Krishna Tiwari. And so we started the production company when we were making this movie. And we have a couple of really cool projects that we've got in the pipeline. They're being written right now. Yeah.
Okay. And Sophia, how about you? Are you traveling with the film to those festivals?
Yes, I'm traveling along with the film, getting to meet some people. And um, for me, the projects that are coming up are I'm a single mom. And so it's been a journey being a single mom. And so part of my work, I think, is to empower single moms and teach the healing journey of single moms. So I have a podcast that I'm developing in regards to that, as well as a film that I'm working on that is, it's going to be a fun, comedic, romantic type of thing, but it's going to be about a single mom.
Okay, interesting. I will want to follow up on that too in the future. And in the meantime, let me just thank both of you, Sofia Yepes and Francisco Ordoñez, for joining us at Film Obsessive to talk about your film. It's called The Low End Theory. It's currently enjoying its festival run, and as you can see, I think it's a film that I find really insightful and invigorating and even important in some interesting ways. So, congratulations to the two of you on its completion and getting it out in front of audiences, and best of luck to both of you for its future.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. It was fun.